Oh, there she is. Hello,
Yeah.
everybody. Welcome to the first episode of Summer of Stew, our month-long, well, kind of off-week, month-long celebration of Kristen Stewart. We are beginning our celebration of her work with 2009's Adventureland, directed by Greg Mottola, who was kind of working his kind of cachet coming off of Superbad being a big hit. And this one was kind of more a one for him type of thing. At least that was kind of my impression, because it was not a broad comedy that was sort of advertised. It was advertised as kind of like Waiting, but at the amusement park. And there was a lot more depth and specificity to it. It wasn't just kind of like a, schlubs comedy. So this was my first time watching Adventureland in a while. It was a movie that I adored when it came out. It was like in my top 10 for 2009. And I'll defer to you guys first. What did you think of Adventureland on this viewing?
I was promised an hilarious and wacky comedy that would be unrated based on my Blu-ray, and I was so disappointed to find a rather melancholy and introspective young person drama. No, I really love Adventureland. I think I liked it better today than I ever have.
Yeah.
I think it's really, really good. I think it's maybe my favorite Jesse Eisenberg performance. I think it's definitely up there with my favorite Kristen Stewart performances. I think it takes everything that she was doing very well at the time that I think a lot of people wrote off as a lot of bad habits. Like the kind of scowl and the biting of her fingers and all those things, all the kind of tics that she had. And I think she turns all that into a very believable, very flawed person who is worth loving. And I love this movie.
I think this movie's great. I think this movie's really, really strong, not only because of the fact that, as you guys said, like it gets that introspection. It does certain things that the Superbads of the world were doing at the time, but doesn't overdo it. I'm thinking of Kristen Wiig, where there's just enough Kristen Wiig in this movie. There's like just enough of her doing the wig thing that she was doing at the time. And I think that's the kind of like restraint and the kind of, as you said, like the sort of just intelligent filmmaking that I think is really on display here. I think this was a really, really, I don't think this one misses a beat. I really, really like rewatching this.
I so appreciate that the movie doesn't go so hard on like, he's awkward, he's a dork. I mean, it establishes those things, but still gives him a little bit of game and like still allows him to be a believable human being instead of making him a punchline at every turn.
We talked specifically about the Kristen Stewart character in this and how she's kind of like an early offshoot of that Bella Swan kind of like awkward person, but she does have a lot more to her.
She did a lot of like, well, she had Panic Room, but she was also kind of like a teen, like a tween starlet for a while, like with Catch That Kid and Zathura and stuff like that. But then like they put her in like a supporting part, and she's really good in it in Into the Wild. And that was kind of the first kind of, maybe I'm wrong, but for me, it was kind of the first glimpse that she was, and I feel a little douchey saying this, but she's like a real soulful performer. There's, especially when you watch her in like Adventureland, there's an interiority to her, just kind of like an X Factor type of thing where like you're curious what makes this actor and character tick. There's a lot of from the Apatow school or like people from that age range that are kind of forcing it, where they're like, this is my scene, this is my showcase and everything like that. And I feel like with her, she kind of like, if she were, in a batter's box in a baseball game, she's letting the pitch come to her. Right. And then she's kind of doing what she needs to with what she's given. And it's a mature way of doing it for somebody who is pretty young at the time. I think she was only like 19 or 20 when she made Adventureland, but it seems like the launching point or the path to the long kind of really impressive career that she's on right now.
I was thinking about the way that, especially during this period in her career, she's being criticized as this sort of bad actress or whatever. But it's so funny, as somebody who does tend to shrink, in this particular role, she still holds a frame like nobody else. Like the camera still loves her in a way that like people who like put it all on and do a big show of it, have to struggle, like you said, kind of struggle to get that. Whereas she can kind of hobble in with her hood up and kind of just like look around, and you just still go right to her. Not just because she's beautiful, but because she has this like energy about her that just, as you said, is introspective. There's interiority there. There's something to her that just, one of the reasons why we're doing this series is because she's just such an interesting performer.
That's the genius of the Lisa P character, because Lisa P is the one that you should have your eyes on, but the whole time you're like looking at Kristen Stewart and you're like, this girl I know is going to break my heart and I'm here for it.
Yeah, 100%.
Can I just say something about one Lisa P?
Yeah, I think
in 2009, I was like, this is a really difficult choice, like of M and Lisa P. And in 2022, I'm like, this is a really difficult choice of M and Lisa P. I know that Lisa P, by the end of the movie, it's like she's vapid and everything like that. But for me, and I told Rob this yesterday, I feel like she's got like a little bit of an Aaron Brockovich ready to break out. I think she's gonna lead to be. She's gonna take more time. She's not gonna get there like M is like, immediately like, who is this like alluring woman? I think Lisa P is gonna go through a rough 20s. She's gonna go through probably a rough 30s, but I think right around the time she gets to 40, she's gonna be like, somebody you want to hang out with. I love the scene where Eisenberg takes Lisa P out on the date to the restaurant. That's a little bit more grown up than like what they should be going to for a restaurant, because I've definitely been on that date where like you take the girl to the Italian restaurant that you've been going to for years with your parents, and then like the waiters in the background giving you like a thumbs up and stuff like that. And that's what that whole thing reminds me of, because like the way she's kind of like put together and everything, it's like, oh, I gotta kind of like, it's like this kind of mixture of like, she's trying to be an adult, but she's also like clearly, the girl who works at Adventureland and everything. And she's kind of faking it till she makes it. The movie suffered for me a little bit on this viewing because of an accrued history with some of these actors that I didn't have in 2009. I'm much less of a Jesse Eisenberg fan and much less of a Ryan Reynolds fan, although I think Ryan Reynolds' character is like really interesting.
I was about to ask about what you thought about Ryan Reynolds.
I think he does it well. I miss performances like this from Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, he's never asked to do this ever again.
Not anymore. Like when he would do this, or like Definitely Maybe and stuff like that, where it was kind of like a twist on these characters. It's almost like he regressed back to Van Wilder in a way. It's like kind of weird. Right now, like when I watched it the other day, like Frigo is kind of my hero, because I'm just like, yeah, you punch him in the nuts every time. Like, way to go, Frigo. Like, I like Frigo's like purity. Like, he's just kind of like, this is who I am. I'm just going to be the guy who punches people in the nuts. And the fact that it's Jesse Eisenberg, I'm just like, yeah, take him down a bit.
I really like the way this movie doesn't push too far with the Kristen Stewart, like the trauma stuff. Like, it doesn't overdo that for the sake of adding more sort of drama. Like, I was expecting a lot more like hysterical breakdowns, because I've seen this movie, but I haven't seen this in theaters. So when I was rewatching it, I really had very little memory of it. And I was expecting that sort of typical, abused, traumatized girl response. Girl who's going through something. There's always a blow up. There's always some kind of breakdown or something like that. But the character is written really intelligently and as an intelligent person, to where there's no dumb second act misunderstanding. There's no, like, I love when he comes to her and he's just like, yeah, I went on a date with Lisa P. The expectation sometimes for that scene is like, she's going to blow up, or this is going to be the thing that carries us to the third act because they have to break up or whatever. But she's just like, that's fine, but she says it in a way that betrays so much of her interior, like that interior pain that she is hurt by it. Obviously, we see her go and drown her sorrows with Ryan Reynolds and all that, but it's not overblown. And that's what, when you see the way this movie is marketed, and maybe the reason why a lot of people, I don't think, talk about this movie very much, and it's certainly not as much as like a Superbad or like a Forgetting Sarah Marshall or something like that. I think it's because it's just tempered really, really well. There's a really good balance of all the elements of it. I don't think it doesn't overdo the 70s, 80s nostalgia stuff. It doesn't overdo the Kristen Wiig stuff. It doesn't overdo anything melodramatic. The characters are intelligent. But it's a nice grungy, it's, at times it's got like a Linklater feel to it. It's got a little bit of Dazed and Confused. It's a really smart coming of age story.
The movie feels very much like it could have come out in 1987, right. which I really enjoy about it. It feels kind of just like a programmer from that period of time, which we used to get that in 2009 even, and it's just kind of a bummer we don't have movies like that. But like, yeah, and even in 2009, I mean, like you would get like 4 movies coming out in a weekend, and Adventureland would be one of them. And it's not trying to like set the world on fire, but like it's the movie that you see in April and then you come back to at the end of the year, and it's like, oh, this is something that you should like keep your eye out on if you haven't seen it. It's really good. Did you guys ever work at an amusement park or have a job similar to like a carnival?
I worked at a Chuck E. Cheese for one day.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Me and some friends were hired to do like children's birthday parties, like to be the entertainment. We were going to write and produce our own show for kids' parties, and I was like, what a fun job. And instead I got there and I was scheduled opposite all of my friends, so I was there by myself, and they were like, go fix the skee ball machine and clean out this cotton candy machine. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to drive 45 minutes every day for this.
Yeah. Anything else we want to hit on Adventureland?
It's on HBO Max, so if you don't own the Blu-ray or want to shell out the money to rent it, although it's worth renting, it is available there. And yeah, I'm glad that we're starting with this one, because I think it's sort of a good jumping off point for the career and the roles and kind of the range that Kristen Stewart is bringing to her career. And it's so exciting that we're seeing somebody, still at a really young age. I think she's only, maybe like in her early 30s now,
33
but
now.
like she's got so many movies like under her belt, and like she kind of has like this really shorthand with her screen persona. And just seeing kind of one aspect of it in Adventureland is really, really rewarding and fun to go back to.
All right, well, thank you, Patrick, for joining us for Adventureland.
Thank you for having me. I'm always happy to talk about Kristen Stewart.
Adam, what do we got next week?
So let's go, I think in chronological order, let's go with The Runaways.
Yeah, let's do The Runaways. All right, well, until next time.
These seats are reserved.
Rock me on the next.
Piece of peace, soulful. Okay, so hello everybody. Welcome to the first episode. Rob, stop looking at me like that.